Welcome back to the Clarity Series. This is episode 7. We're talking about everything that's going on in today's world. You know, the political climate, the protests, Black Lives Matter movement. I want to introduce the panel: Christian Hill, Adrian Hayes, OJ, D-Win, Calvin Robinson, Nemo. I see you. I know he's always working, but he's tuned in. So just kind of having everything. I kind of want to touch briefly on the kind of get right into it and touch briefly on the hashtags. So how do y'all feel about defunding the police? I know that's one of the hashtags coming out right now. Another one is F the police, but we're not going to get into that at this one. We're going to talk about defunding the police. Defunding the police is just a quick background. Is reallocating the funds for the police to maybe necessarily allocating them to healthcare, education, maybe even public safety, a lot of things. But I want to hear y'all's views on how you feel about defunding the police. It is not abolishing the police, so I am for necessarily defunding the police, but I am also for better payment of the police. But I want to hear everybody else.
Adrian, why you take your head? No, when you was talking about defunding the police.
When you say defund the police and it's reallocating, I mean, you're still taking funds away from the department and moving them around. I mean, I'm all for relocating them to the right areas within the department, such as sensitivity training, making sure they need to be at least a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. That way they'll be able to handle, de-escalate issues as far as, because most killings that you see, they trying to apprehend a suspect or potential suspect. And that's where the killings take place. And if you're a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, you're not going to have to use any kind of lethal weapons whatsoever. But I don't think I really can.
I want to make sure you clarify an unarmed suspect.
Yeah, an unarmed suspect. But they can disarm a armed suspect. But
I agree, but most of the time you're probably going to resort to your weapon.
I fully agree with defunding police, because I feel like a lot of police departments ain't really, I know, if I'm not mistaken, the Ferguson case, I believe they stated that police department was one of the lowest paid police departments, and they didn't have a lot of money for funding to get the proper training. So I feel like if you do defund the police, they really won't get that proper training that they really should need, even though it seems like it don't matter right now with all the police brutality going on in the world. But I still think it could help.
So you want to defund the police. You don't want to defund the police. You want to refund the police. You want to let them keep all the money they're getting. Let's say they're getting $100,000 a year. You want them to keep all $100,000 of that money, but put it in different places. Instead of putting it in new equipment and new cars and toys, put it in new sensitivity training, put it in new physical training to protect and serve in a different way. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, more so, kind of, I think. I mean, I have to do more research, but I mean, we don't need all the fancy Tahoes and the paint job is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Transgressing where you can't see them. I wholeheartedly believe it needs to go towards a lot of training to help de-escalate a lot of this stuff. Because, like I say, if we try to take their weapons away, a lot of people gonna take advantage of that.
I don't think we're trying to take their weapons away. I think that's a bad example. I think when
we're definitely not trying to take weapons away from the police.
If they got $100,000 budget each year, drop it to 85, and that 15 that they don't have, they just didn't buy a new vehicle. They just didn't buy that protection, that personal protection gear. It's not like nothing was wrong with the one they just got last year. They just want newer stuff. When they could take that same $15,000 that was missing that you defunded from the police and give it to child protection services, defects, healthcare workers who didn't get no hazard pay and been dealing with the COVID pandemic all this time, or you can give it to somebody in your judicial system. You give it to other social workers and civic heroes, so to speak, that will alleviate some of the workload from those officers, where they don't have to do everything, they don't have to be on every scene, and that is why I'm behind defunding the police. because a lot of stuff they do, they don't got to do. A lot of stuff that they pay to do and they spend their money on, they don't have to spend their money on. And for us to be sending extra money every year to the police, when we can't get new textbooks for our kids, when we ain't got no PPE gear for our healthcare workers who fighting COVID and risking their lives every day, that somebody got some explaining to do. You got to explain to me why those funds can't be reallocated. And if that means defund the police, then heck yeah, let's do it.
But I mean, it's kind of tricky because if you take away, I mean, Nick just said it earlier. They really are low paid. So I mean, if we taking money away, then I know for a fact we gonna cut their pay again. And they really risking their lives every day. I mean, right along with the nurses and stuff who are fighting on the front line right now.
What I said was to reallocate. I didn't say to take away. Yes, in some form or fashion, you're going to have to take away some money. But if you reallocate the funds in terms of a pay increase, in terms of if you achieve a certain amount of certifications, then yes, that's the betterment of those funds being used. Jiu-jitsu. If he has a jiu-jitsu degree, jiu-jitsu belt, or if he's how would you say, a master in jiu-jitsu, a blue belt, even a blue belt, then that deserves a promotion. That deserves a pay increase. But if we just handing out, pay increases, if we just giving you $30,000 to be a Joe Schmo every day, are you really gonna want to do your job? Because you really can't afford to live.
Right.
How you gonna start a family and you have $30,000?
But when you start saying things like, people start saying things like defund the police, and then they talk about giving that money to social workers and teachers and getting new textbooks and everything like that. There's so many other things out there that you could defund to do those things. And I thought when you say,
such as, just give me some examples because I'm looking.
When you see things like there's cracks in the road and stuff like that, and East Cobb just gets a completely new road done on Sandy Plains and stuff like that they really didn't need. It's like that's been a project road work, and they didn't change the lanes or anything like that. They just repaved them and got some nicer stuff. So when you see things like that, that's just off the top of my head that I see where it's like, why was that necessary? But at the same time, to the point you said, Sue, is you got kids that don't have textbooks, and not necessarily in my area, just to be honest with you, but like, I know there are certain areas that need textbooks and stuff like that where you could pay teachers more. You could take that money and do it and put it towards like social workers and everything like that. So I think defunding the police, when people say it and then you really think about it, you want to defund to take that money and put it into things like the schooling system and everything like that. But like I said, there's a lot of other things that you can defund and do the same thing. And going off what Nick said, when it comes to reallocating the funds within the police department, so pretty much just don't let them get unnecessary items. Like you were saying, like there's no reason for them to have the newest thing every single year, year after year, when it's not necessary for them to do their day-to-day jobs. It doesn't interfere with their day-to-day jobs. So like saying defund the police, you'd be better personally. You just reallocate the funds into different things like training, like jiu-jitsu, like psychological training, more ongoing training and stuff like that. Because I think they only have to pass one test, one or two tests to still be a police officer and whatnot throughout the year. So like you need more things like that.
Also depending on the department, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, depending on the department.
Very few certifications that they have to retake to keep their. But I think more so they focus more so on shooting rather than de-escalating, and that's just my own personal opinion. From things that I've heard from different counties and different cities around our area. I think that's what they focus more so on and not necessarily de-escalating the situation to enforce and control the situation. That's what they more so focus on. But let's kind of steer away.
Just had something, bro. Don't run away.
Well, one thing.
My bad. Go ahead.
What about, okay, so when we say the police, we also got to think about, we're not only just talking about the officers. We need to defund the whole system type deal, you know what I'm saying? Because just like how when we went to the Juneteenth protest, with celebration, they was, a guy was saying that, it's a system, it's a top, if if you're a manager of somewhere, the employees, they're answering to the manager, you know. So it's one of those things where we shouldn't really just, I mean, of course we need to focus on the officers, but we also need to focus on the lieutenants, you know, the higher ups, and then trickle it down as well, because it's something that they're telling them to do. Because the reason why, like, one of the reasons why we were talking about defunding the police is because they're abusing their power, so they should be getting punished.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So,
And I think that's what
the ones that are abusing their power, I agree, should be punished.
Yeah, I think that's where the defund the police come from. I seen someone on Twitter a couple weeks ago said, you never heard F the fire station because they do their job the right way. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where you're talking about defunding, because if we're being honest, every city and every local government is probably strapped for cash, and no taxpayer is going to vote to increase those taxes for the right reasons, to get those more tests with those new textbooks, to get the new PPE equipment for our social workers and stuff like that. But if those funds are there and nobody's voting to change those things, that money has to go somewhere. Right now it's going to the police. So if those are the ones that are abusing those powers, it's just like you got in trouble when you was a kid. You just got a new toy. You went to school and cut up the next day. For your punishment, you got that toy taken away. Well, Mr. Police Officer, you've been getting money and you've been doing these things with it. You've been abusing their power. So you don't punish me. You get that money taken away. And I think that's what the idea of defunding the police comes from. Obviously, we all agree that it's a top-down issue. I think we all agree that we shouldn't abolish the police, that we need some kind of enforcement and law protecting and serving enforcing agency. Maybe they could do a little better job. But I think that's where it comes from, Juice. You're right.
But when you made a statement, nobody says F the fire station. That wouldn't make any sense from, like, that's not comparable, really. This is me being devil's advocate. It's not comparable because color isn't something that you're going to visibly see in their line of work as a means to why they didn't save somebody.
You don't think so?
Which is different. No, because it's not going to.
Yes and no. I think there's a less bias. I agree.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I disagree.
No, that's fine. But on a day-to-day basis, a cop is going to interact with people. People are going to be able to get that incident on video. So you see the color of the officer and you see the color of the individual. But when it's a firefighter going in and rushing to save somebody from a fire, it's always been the firemen did everything they could to get the people out. You're not going to get a video of a fireman looking into a room where he sees a black child and a white child and goes after the white child instead of going after the black child. Like, that's something that he or she would only be able to see. So that's why color gets taken out as a factor when no one's gonna say F the fire station and things like that for that reason.
I think you made a very good point, and I don't disagree with the point, but I think you just made a Max Kellerman point. Very hypothetical, because you can say that, bro, and you make a good point, but let's just say you pull up into a black neighborhood and the house is a 5-scale fire. Are you really gonna send your men in there? You're a lot less likely to. But if you go to Buckhead and there's a mansion on fire, and you know that mansion belongs to someone of affluence, you're more likely to send your team in there to save him because he's someone with power and influence. And if you want to put color in that, we can put color in that. But it's more of a societal class than it's black and white anyway. Because there's black brothers who make a lot of money who being protected and not attacked by the police. And there's white brothers who ain't got no money and getting shot down and gunned down the streets by the police. So for the point you made, you make a good point. But I think that's a Max Kellerman type point. I can't let it fly, bro. I don't know
if it's you said hypothetical though. So what you just
maybe hypothetical was the wrong word, but that your point for
color.
saying that
color is the difference.
How do you know if a fireman doesn't see color?
Your example was just socioeconomic. It wasn't based on color. You said different class.
And you brought color into it, so I'm trying to figure out how did you know?
That's what I'm saying.
See color.
Fellas, we are getting away from defunding the police, and now we're talking about the fire. Now we're talking about the fire station. So let's go ahead and veer it back in, and let's talk about something that's a little more positive. We all know that since the killing of Breonna Taylor happened, and it's still nobody's been brought to justice. But one thing that it's kind of a silver lining in terms of Louisville and the Metropolitan Police and the City Council and everything. They did pass a non-knock of Breonna Taylor's law, or Breonna's law, as it's called, where there's no such thing as a no-knock search warrant anymore in the city of Louisville. So how do y'all feel about that? Do you think that other people should adapt that law, or do you think that they're just trying to save face? Go ahead, Stu.
I think they should definitely adapt their law. But how you pass a law to arrest killers who murdered her? Brent Hankinson, Miles Grove, and Jonathan Mattingly. Why are they not sitting in somebody's penitentiary right now? How do you pass a law and you don't arrest the people responsible?
I mean, I don't know. I can't personally tell you. That I know that they're talking about like maybe he's been fired now, but that doesn't necessarily help anything. He still hasn't been prosecuted. So, I mean, and then the worst part is that she was really kind of one of theirs. She was kind of one of their own in terms of she was a paramedic.
And
you're a paramedic and you're black, and now you can't even what's called. You're not even. You know, it just kind of hit home.
It just, man, it's like the system is so messed up though, because it's like whenever you do like look into the case, you know, that the judge gave them the right to do that type deal, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a lot of people to blame in that situation, you know, how they was thinking that, you know, packages was going to that house and, you know, drug deals and stuff like that, and you know, but it's just the system is messed up. It's messed up. It's just messed up, though. And then I also will point this out as well too, though. It's like the fact that, you know, she's a black woman, and you know how I don't want to get into it, but I do want to get into it. It's just one of those things where it's like, why isn't there any justice for our black women in that instance? Like, what's taking so long? You know, what's taking so long? There's so many fights that we have to fight, but that fight, you know, that should have been like, why pass a law when you, like you said, why pass a law when you haven't even did what you were supposed to do? Was the rest everybody that's involved with that? Come on now, like, you pass a law before that? Crazy.
You right about that, Juice.
I agree.
Breonna's death is, to me, by far one of the most disturbing, disgusting things that I've ever seen, and I don't think nothing ever surpassed that, because, you know, to be sleeping in your own home and shoot, you know, when somebody say you want to die in your sleep as your way to go, you thinking peacefully. I mean, and to lock the boyfriend or the husband up and charge him with attempted murder.
They dismissed that, but yeah.
Even though they later released him, I mean,
right.
It's crazy. And the person you're looking for is already in jail.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I can't even wrap my head around it. It's crazy.
Shot 8 times.
It's crazy.
Christian, I know you looked into it. You got like more information about what Breonna law entails. Like, what is the law? Is it just the no knock? Like, did it just prohibit no knock warrants, or is there more to it?
So it went in to go ahead and prohibit the no knock warrant, but also enforced a law that requires the police officers to activate their body cameras prior to entry, and then requires them to have them on for a period of time, like once they exit. So that, I guess, that's a way of, like, you know, providing some sort of evidence of what takes place during these warrants. I think the entire origin and the reason behind them is a bunch of baloney to begin with, but I don't think that these type things get passed. They get passed like with intention. So the reason for no knock warrant is to, you know, to catch the suspect, or, you know, to catch the suspect with their pants down, basically, and whatever evidence they have, they can't dispose of it, you know, prior to that entering the spot. I think that's baloney. Like, you're really trying to catch somebody like with their pants down, opposed to having like solid evidence and a, you know, legitimate case to present against someone. I think that's really lame, bro. You really going on suspicion at that point.
So is
And
it to catch them? Is it to catch them alive, or just kick the door
I
in
don't
and
know.
shoot 'em?
I
I
think
don't
it's just
know.
because
And
of flipping
see,
in general.
it's just to catch them slipping. But the thing is, like, this isn't new. And like we've had news sources reporting on the atrocities that follow a do not warrant for years. It's only in the heightened sensitive times that we're in now, and like the heightened voices that we're using, that we really like push for a call to action. It's only because of a case like Breonna Taylor's that we really getting the results, and that's only in that particular city and state. So like I would push for anyone that views this to get knowledgeable on what's going on in your place, in your city. Know what they can and cannot do. Understand what a warrant is and the limits that they have in place. Well, I think I don't understand those that are going on in Georgia, but clearly I need to know.
Yeah, I agree.
Saving face. I'm sorry, excuse my language. Saving face. Like you arrested the boyfriend, you dismissed that, you fired one of the police officers, and then the other two you reassign them. You basically saying that they was in the wrong, but why not do it like?
I hate to say it because it's kind of like you can't charge somebody for a law. I don't even know if that's legal. Like if they can do that, and then you got to think of the legal powers behind the police officers that will like defend them. The police unions and the legislation they have in place to like defend these people. Man, they would send these cities up the water if they get into a legal battle, man. So a lot of times
it's common sense, man.
I feel you, but that's a societal
I understand
problem.
it's a law, but you kick the door and you go to shoot. Give me the courtesy of waking me up first.
No,
it's a societal problem because we can't exile certain behaviors, bro.
So a no knock is basically giving you the right to go in the door and go to shoot.
It's a modern day.
Yeah, basically.
That's the point of no knock. The no knock is to not address your presence.
That's crazy.
No knock is to be discreet.
Sometimes it's legal, like some type of warrant. Sometimes
And then they can say that we did say is he say she say. All they word against yours. They'll say that we did announce our presence, and they can say anything. That's the protection they have.
If they announce their presence, they know it's a woman in her sleep.
Say that one time, Suit, when it's clear, so everybody. So
it's a modern day lynching. Modern day lynching. That's all it was.
I agree with that.
That's all it was, bro. Modern day lynching. And man, it's a modern day lynching. It's a modern day lynching, just like I said. And speaking of lynchings, modern day, bro, did y'all know it's been 5 lynchings in the United States of America since like middle of May, bro? 5 lynchings, bro. It's been 2 in California, 1 in New York, and 2 in Texas, bro. And all 5 people have been people of color, 4 black people and one Latino. And all of them have been suicides, bro. What person of color hung himself?
Oh man, that's crazy.
Hung himself from trees, bro.
Yeah, in public like that.
You feel me? Hey, bro, can I give y'all a little history on lynching, bro, real quick?
I had to look it up too.
It bothered me so much, bro. I had to really dive into it, bro. So y'all all heard of Lynchburg, Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's named after Colonel Lynch, who kind of founded the city. Now, he did own slaves, but he eventually let those slaves go. Now, when he passed, his son bought those slaves back. Now, the term lynching was coined under his son's tutelage because his father, Colonel Lynch, had lynch laws which he governed his city with. Those lynch laws were usually just any kind of punishment or torture that he felt, whether it be death by fire squad, hanging, for example. But these lynch laws were performed on any criminal, regardless of color. They didn't take on the negative connotation that we know them today until his son coined a term where he was publicly lynching slaves. Since we're talking about lynching, bro, did you know that there's 5 states? I want to get them right. I wrote them down somewhere. Let me find them, bro, because I do not want to lie on nobody. Mississippi, Louisiana, and Georgia have more lynchings than any other state in the country. Did you know that Georgia?
I'm really surprised about Mississippi, though.
I ain't surprised by none 3 of them, but did you know that Georgia led the country in lynchings from 1900 to 1931 with 302?
Hey, let me tell you a story.
Hold on, Turk. Let me get there. I ain't done. Did you know that they used to have lynch parties, bro? Where they used to have crowds of 2,000 to 4,000 people. And they would not only hang a colored person or a Negro, as they would call them back in those times, that they would literally dismember this brother's bodies and hand them to little kids as souvenirs. They were handing out ears, intestines, kidneys, toes, genitals. Yes, genitals as souvenirs, bro. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a legacy museum in Montgomery, Alabama right now that tells everything about that era of our country. And I don't know how I feel about that museum, but I kind of want to go just to do my research and just to see it live. Turk, tell your story, bro, because my mind is blown right now.
I mean, I mentioned it earlier with the stories. One story in particular my grandpa was telling me about was how they used to go around and lynch people in our county. And he was telling me a particular story about a family where this dude, he said he whistled at a white girl. And he said they came, castrated him, lynched him in front of the family on the porch. Said nothing was done. He said they just let him leave though. This was in the early 1900s.
And we all know what happened.
1930s, 1940s.
We all know what happened to Emmett Till, bro. So it's amazing to me that there's still people being lynched. It's amazing to me no matter what the FBI said or not, that's no mistake that was made in Bubba Wallace's locker in his drive. It's either a noose or not.
Whether it was there for a year or whether it was there for that overnight, a noose is a noose, and the fact that it was there for a year. Come on, man.
And even if it was part of the typical garage material, somebody had to knot that noose that specific way. You have to tie that knot a certain way. You know what I'm saying? So that had to be intentional in some form or fashion. And it just blows my mind that there's lynching going on right now in this country, and there's still people and still states who don't have hate crimes against stuff like that. You know, it's only 46 states in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., have hate crime laws. Georgia just passed theirs this year after they got shot down back in 2004, bro. It blows my mind. Only thing they got those hate crime laws passed in Georgia is the uproar on Ahmaud Arbery's murder, bro. If it wasn't for Ahmaud Arbery, it would still not be no hate crime bill in the state of Georgia, bro. That's his greatest sacrifice.
Should have been had that shit, bro.
And that's crazy in the state of Georgia.
When you still
leave, not get a hate crime. That's
and the fact that what they said when they killed him, you know what I'm saying? Like all that, like they should have been had, like it's
Arkansas,
it's sad.
Wyoming, and South Carolina still do not have hate crime laws. I don't think South Carolina has ever put it to Senate to even be up for vote. If they have, I know they have in the last 10 years.
I don't care.
It's sad. It's sad. It really is sad. Did you know that when you talk about hate crimes, bro, if there's any bodily injury involved, you're supposed to typically, allegedly, in the United States of America, get 10 years minimum when there's bodily harm and violence involved in a hate crime. So I'm curious to see what the state of Georgia in this most recent crime bill they passed handle the 3 murders of Arbery. Or do they get some kind of leniency because they committed that crime before the hate crime bill was passed? That's what I'm most paying attention to right now, because I'm very curious on how they handle that thing. They're trying their best to make examples out of those three men. I'm trying to see how severe the punishment is, because we all believe they deserve at least 25 years for the hunt and murder of that young man. I'm not an advocate for the death penalty, but they close.
They won't get it. They'll figure out some way, they'll throw the book at them and somehow end up with manslaughter. They'll give them time in prison, but they won't give them 25 to life. If they give them 25 to life, if Georgia gives them 25 to life, I would be shocked.
You know what? it's been a lot of protests and there's been a lot of riots, and I'm never gonna be the one to incite violence, but I think there would be another surge of protests and rallies in our country, especially our state, if those people aren't prosecuted in the right fashion. I
I
just
would not be, you know, and I agree. I would not be surprised if they try to burn down City Hall. I would not be surprised if they try to burn down those individuals' houses.
see, and I ain't with that, Nick. I ain't trying to incite no riot.
I'm not either, and I'm not trying to incite a riot either. But if the fact that those three don't, if they somehow start off and they're like, you know, we didn't see anything wrong, or they're acquitted of all charges, you telling me that the current climate in America, you telling me with the current person in office,
yes,
they
will be
like
burnt
to
down.
they like to refer to him as number 45, insinuating riots on a daily basis. You telling me that they're not going to try to burn down those men's houses?
Probably, Nick. And there probably will be riots, and the riot is a form of civil disorder. And that's the difference between that and a protest. A riot is a form of civil disorder. A protest is just an expression of objection. And I don't advocate violence of any kind, but I understand that sometimes riots are the voice of the unheard. And we're dealing with social justice as diverse and full spectrum as we are. You're gonna get all kind of uproar, objections, and different kinds of protests. I get that. That's a lot of the things that we talked about when we talked about defunding the police. You got to defund the whole system. You got to dismantle the whole system. You got to deal with all these different avenues of a bunch of different things that's going wrong, and that is included in the way that shows up in the way we protest and we riot. Now, I'm not a fan of the rioting. I'm not a fan of the looting, but it comes with everything else when we dealing with something as full spectrum and as large a magnitude as we are dealing with right now. So it's sad, but yeah, you're probably right. If them folks get acquitted, which I doubt, or they're not persecuted in the way that they deserve, it might get ugly for them and their families in their area. But I don't advocate for that, and I hope that it doesn't come to that.
I hope it never comes to that. I really do. I'm not a firm believer in violence solves everything. I don't see that, you know, and I don't necessarily think that their families should pay for the actions of them specifically. But Georgia has a duty right now and all the time to process them the way they should be processed. And if I feel like if they are not processed to the full extent of the law, there will be repercussions by citizens, and which is sad to say, but the fact that people can legally just shoot us and then they walk into, okay, cool, they spend a couple months in jail and they come back out and they're like, all right, cool, I'm good. And they go back to living their normal lives.
And then that's not okay. People wonder why we protest and why we show up to Juneteenth marches and why we scream no justice, no peace, no racist police, and why we do the things that we do.
We could have burned down we could have been angry people every single day of our lives. Black people as a whole. Not just talking about just us individuals. I'm talking about black people as a whole. Could have been angry every single day of our lives for how everything is led up, all of the cards stacked against us. But we're not built that way. We're built to overcome adversity. So, in my opinion, we all look at it like, all right, cool. We'll just play your game.
I feel you.
Well, but the game's been rigged the game has been rigged since the day that they said, all right, cool, we're gonna let you go.
I agree, Nick, and I hate to pivot so quickly, but I have to ask y'all, just because it's on my heart. Have y'all had anybody reach out to you and ask or share their opinions about anything that has been going on? Because I personally had some really, really good conversations and dialogue with a lot of my white friends, my colleagues of different colors and different ethnicities, and people that I work with or used to work with in close contact, who have shared their issues and their concerns and expressed their opinions on everything that's going on. And we've had some really good dialogue where I don't think we solved the issue worldwide, but we have a mutual understanding about where we both stand on matters that we facing. Juice, I see you with your hand up. Did you have any experience of anybody reaching out to you?
Yeah, I had two. I had somebody, a former advisor and a former coach reached out to me, you know. But it was just, you know, just showing love, you know, of course, they can't walk in our shoes type deal, but it was just basically just showing love. But yeah, but out of all, the white friends or whatever case, yeah, those two. That's it. Yeah.
What about anybody else? Anybody have any good or bad reactions to anything that's been going on?
I had a lot of people reach out when I put my post on Facebook that day. I had a lot of high school friends reach out and ask me, like, did we ever make you feel uncomfortable, or was we always good to you because we were blind to it? And they.
I don't like that blind. I don't like that blind stuff, man.
I can see where they coming from though, because I was blind to it too, and I'm gonna say that because if y'all read the post that I put, you'll know that I shared some of the stuff that I went through. But it shouldn't have took till I became 26 for all that to come out. My mama didn't know about half of that stuff. Nobody did really, probably for close friends or a few. But it was because I was blind as well. Like, I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know what to do, and I know they didn't either. If I did. I ain't feel I can't say I felt some kind of way when it happened. It was just
you were trying to process it.
Huh?
You were trying to process it. And I feel like a lot of people are trying to process it as well. I agree. I not necessarily agree, but I understand where you're coming from in terms of some are blind to it because it was the way they were raised. And in terms of the climate that you grew up in, that was just the norm to them. So for you to reach out and speak out and tell them, like, hey, look, I didn't feel comfortable when you said that. They were like, well, damn. Maybe I need to understand why he didn't feel comfortable saying that, why when I said that, or what made him feel uncomfortable, or why his experience was different from mine.
Right.
Hey, Calvin, what about you? You have anybody reach out, side up, say anything, or mention you at all, or reach out during anything that's been going on?
You there? Yeah.
I also add, if he's not going to say, well, if I post something on IG, I say about two more, because I don't want them to feel like, saying just saying like what we're doing as, as an organization, as an impact group, we're doing the right thing type deal, and they support us type deal. So I would say I'll add two more people in that. Don't want to discredit them.
Yeah, I had
say that.
Got parent-like figures of different color reach out and tell me as well, like, they wouldn't protect me at all costs, and they love me. So, I've had some of those people reach out as well, and I really appreciate that. Shout out.
I've had a bunch of those as well. That's why I wanted to ask. I know I didn't get it personally, but when we did participate in the Juneteenth walk, there was a young lady who slid up and commented that she thought we were the problem. She commented and said that we were causing more trouble than we were trying to solve. And to that young lady, I want to say, first off, thank you. Thank you for showing your true colors. I want to say thank you for letting us know what side of the fence you stand on. I want to say thank you for not seeing the bigger picture. And I want to congratulate you on being able to not having to hide behind the smoke and mirrors or the facade that you have painted for yourself over the last 5 or 6 years that we've been knowing you and have interacted with you. I'm a firm believer that everything we did on Juneteenth was respectful to everybody who was involved. I'm a firm believer that the march that we participated in, the rally that we attended, was all positive for all people, but especially Black people, because Black lives do matter. And I'm not gonna get into the all lives and blue lives versus Black lives matter debate, but we are Black lives standing on this screen, and we do matter. And for you not to understand why we marched or why we protest or why we rallied, we believe you are the problem as well. And this is not to call you out or to point fingers. This is just to ask you that the next time you decide to comment on what we're doing, whether you like it or dislike it, just be mindful of the ramifications in which that comment may have. Because we're only here to educate, empower, and encourage people to become the best version of themselves by working diligently toward that on a daily basis. And however we decide to do that, we feel is right for not only ourselves, but for the society. So if you don't agree and don't support, we appreciate you nonetheless, but we won't stop doing what we need to do because we know that's the right thing to do.
Real. That's real. And it's crazy.
Technical difficulties fixed. Do you want to chime in and reflect?
Oh, you talking about So pretty much, Soup said it very well. If you're in a situation where you think you're helping by telling people to forget about things and whatnot.
It happened 400 years ago. Forget about racism.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and you talking about all that to all these Confederate statues that everybody's taking down. Forget about everything else that you've been advocating for us in the past. And like, it doesn't make any sense for you to sit there and try to say forget about it. Like, that's the issue right there. And the conversation can be held with white privilege, which that speaks on. What you weren't facing any day-to-day struggles because of the color of your skin, because at the end of the day, the people that were your same skin color were always in power. So for you to sit up there and sit there and say, forget about it, it doesn't matter. And I thought y'all were better than this, because I thought y'all were better than this. Went to a protest, peaceful protest. Y'all didn't like when Cap took a knee. Don't like peaceful protests because you don't understand it. Think everybody needs to forget about it. Think that everybody needs to sit there and just shut up and just take it. And then you always get the things thrown in your face like, oh, well, guess what? Life got better. This, that, and the third. Guess what? Muhammad Ali was in an interview, and they were talking to him, and they said, you know what they said to my grandfather? That his kid's life would get better. You know what they said? To my father, he said that my life would get better. You know what they said to me? They said my kid's life would get better. The fact that this has to keep being a conversation that's held about life getting better and things got better. If you ask an 80-year-old Black person from when they were born to now, of course they're going to say their life got better. You know why? Because they've seen a lot of change come through their life. And we're talking my granddad. You know, we wouldn't have been able to rock out in the streets and stuff like that when the street lights was off, all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? Of course it got better for him, but that doesn't mean you throw it in somebody's face as just a pacifier to be like, shut up and accept it, because that's the issue. Like,
shut up and dribble. Better.
Yeah, exact facts. Shut up and dribble. Like, what are y'all talking about out here? So appreciate it really for the insight that you gave us when you replied. But yeah, that's really my thoughts on it.
Whew. Who are we talking about again?
All right, we ain't got enough money in the pot to call no names, but she know who he is. We appreciate you, Miss P.
Miss P.
So, but anybody have any more thoughts?
I miss y'all, man. Social distance killing me, dog.
It's killing us.
It's our boys, man.
But
yeah, man.
I'm gonna go ahead and end this call, and I would appreciate everybody for coming out, especially the panel, everybody tuning in. Like I said before, like I kind of say in every episode, if you're part of the DoWork family, I appreciate you. If you're not a part, I encourage you to join, become educated, become aware, become the best version of yourself, and just remember to trust God, commit to the process, and do work.
Yes, sir.
Do work.
He don't eat.
Yes, sir.
Man,
Do work.
Good job.
Do work.